Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and we're finally back. It's been a few weeks, Jeff. Kind of forgot how to do this. What are we supposed to do?
Yeah, we are back. I like it. A few, it was nice to get away for a moment, lick my wounds or celebrate as it may have been. But yeah, I'm excited to get back into this, talk about some fantasy football and talk about, football in general with you, buddy.
Yeah, we'll do our award show today, which is always fun. Got a bunch of awards. But might as well say, we got Owen won our listener league, the overall championship. So he's going to have that championship belt sent over to him here really soon. I just got in touch with him, so he won the whole thing. Let's see here. I'm going to see his roster. He led by Andrew Luck, Saquon Barkley, Jamal Williams he threw in there for that week, Devontae Adams, T.Y. Hilton, Ian Thomas had a big week, Damian Williams. A lot of good pickups. He kept going, so yeah, he won the whole thing this year. So get the nice belt. We'll see what we can do next year for everyone in the listener leagues. But then I wrapped up that Instagram versus Twitter league, which was nice. So we got that championship for the podcast. Beat a bunch of good, Twitter accounts and Instagram accounts. So that's always fun. But we might as well get into some awards. End of 2018, or now it's 2019, but got some awards here, Jeff. We'll start off with the big one, most valuable. So I'll give you mine first.
All right.
See what you think. So there actually, I think, there are a few candidates you could have here. There really is. It's not. I could probably name at least 3 that I think could be picked for this, maybe even 4. But I actually went with Christian McCaffrey as my MVP for the year.
I did not see that one coming. All right, sell me on that one. He's very good. Don't get me wrong, but
it's just a mixture. It's a mixture of where he went in the drafts, which was a lot of times he was going in the 3rd round. And it's a mixture of him going in the 3rd round plus end the year as the number 3 running back in standard and the number 2 running back in PPR. So in PPR leagues, he was better than Todd Gurley in PPR leagues. And he was only 0.3 behind Saquon Barkley for PPR to be the number 1 running back so number 3 standard. And I just think that combination with where he went in the drafts, I picked him up. Maybe this is part of the reason I picked him up in that Instagram Twitter league in the 3rd round and won the championship. So maybe that's why I'm picking him as my MVP, but I think it was just a great season, especially how he played down the stretch there for a bit and helped lead teams to championships. So yeah, Christian McCaffrey's my pick.
All right. I like it. He did come on strong. He was a huge, contributor at the end of the year. I totally get it. He was wonderful. He really was. He was kind of a bright spot, to be honest. Like one of the guys that truly stepped up this year. So it was very good to see. So mine.
But like I said, there's a few candidates. So I'll see if you have one of them.
There really is. And I think the one that everyone expects me to pick would be Todd Gurley, which I'm actually not. He's an easy one, right? If you say him, I have no issue with it whatsoever. I'm actually against what I usually like to do. But even through the playoffs, how the year ended, and pretty much how much distance he put between himself and the 2nd place quarterback, I have to say Patrick Mahomes would be my MVP.
He was one of my, I was saying 3 or 4 guys. He'd be the other one.
He does have, and on average, and once again, this obviously doesn't account for injuries, things of that nature, but even between him and number 2, who is Matt Ryan, which is actually very surprising. But at the same time, was that 4.8 points per game difference between 1st and 2nd? If you look at it, really there's only, 1.2 between Gurley and Barkley, and even, you don't get to 4 point anything until you pretty much get near the almost number 9 running back, which has also kind of been the unusual, between past years. So Patrick Mahomes, and he showed up in the playoffs. He showed up when you needed him. Actually, he's the biggest reason why the guy that won our league did.
Because James' team was kind of crap.
It was awful. It was awful. And he's the reason I'm not a champion right now. So
pretty much.
I have to give it to Mahomes. He was phenomenal. I thought at some point he would dip. He really did not. He was just tried and true, and a huge reason why a lot of people won their leagues this year.
Yeah, he would be right there in my top three. Him, McCaffrey, Gurley. Those were my top three. They're just the best this year. And actually, I'll say my fourth. This one's probably a little different than maybe some, but it would have been Devontae Adams, actually, with how consistent this guy was all year. And he was drafted a little further down, and yet his consistency was unreal. I think I saw the stat. It must have been in PPR leagues, but he never went below 15 points in a game in PPR. Just ridiculous consistency. There was no other player other than quarterback who did what he did consistency-wise, and he kept going throughout the year. So he would have been up there too. Not quite MVP, but he's definitely worth probably my most valuable wide receiver, honestly.
Yeah, he was
really good.
He was very, very good. And, just even more so, you say PPR, which that's phenomenal. But he only went below 10 points in standard one game, and that was week 4 against Buffalo, and he still had 8 catches for 81 yards.
Yeah, and that's still a very solid game.
And
he was extremely, when you pull up that stat line, you just look how consistent was that.
It was incredible. And really, if you look at the people that are above him, only 2 other wide receivers. I'm looking at standard, but there's only 2 that ranked above him. Antonio Brown, who
had a down year, right?
Yeah, down year.
104, 12, 97, and 15.
Went insane with touchdowns, so that really buoyed him. And then Tyreek Hill, who, even though he did score quite, more points than anyone, and he actually did put a little distance between him and second place as well. Not average-wise near as much, but just overall, 247 to 219. He was so up and down that he will win you weeks, but in the playoffs too. I mean, I know you don't know. It's hard to judge it purely on that, but 4.1, 9.1, he was all over the place. So I would rather have Devontae Adams for an entire year than Tyreek Hill.
Well, I just find it funny how the perception of these, I've got 2 players, Tyreek Hill and Mike Evans. The perception of how much better Tyreek Hill seems to be in people's minds for fantasy over Mike Evans. Look at the numbers. It's not much different. 87 catches for Tyreek Hill to 86 for Evans. Evans had 15 to 24 receiving yards to Hill's 1479. Just Hill had 4 more touchdowns. There isn't a huge difference between these 2 guys. But for some reason, Tyreek Hill's image is so much better. When it comes to this, which he did, I would so much. Yeah,
I would, to be honest, I'd rather have Tyreek Hill than Mike Evans, but the numbers are very, very close. And Mike Evans,
I think I would too, but it's just the perception is so much greater for Tyreek Hill. There's such a difference, but they're really not.
And even more so because not many people play week 17, and I know that these numbers do factor that in. Like him and Evans both had, and this is not downgrading them, but they both had big weeks, week 17. Tyreek Hill had 23 points, and that's, Devontae Adams sat out. Antonio Brown sat out. So, it's closer than you think.
And when you look at these wide receivers, there are some monster seasons put up here. When you really look at the final numbers, Michael Thomas, 125 catches for 1405 yards. I mean, Juju, look at Juju's numbers, 111 catches, 1426. That's just crazy.
Yeah, first of all, and let me say to you were absolutely right about Julio Jones. About the second half of the season, I was wrong. I really did not think he would be able to do this from never catching a touchdown pretty much. I know that's an overstatement, but we make jokes about it, and I was like, okay, so even if he catches a few the second half of the season, there's no way he's going to compete. I still think I probably won because Antonio Brown went nuts.
Yeah.
But the fact that he went 8 touchdowns for 9 games after the bye week. Oh my gosh. He was already a monster before that, just yardage alone, but he really did show out. It was really fun to watch finally him to get in the end zone a lot.
Well, enough about good players. How about some bad players here?
Oh.
We'll talk about who was our least valuable player of the year, basically our bust of the year. So I'll give you mine. It's going to be Rob Gronkowski. He wasn't even really hurt this year.
No,
he just was bad. He just was bad. And if you drafted him, if he was on your team, you had to draft him too high, and he wasn't any good. He was not good. And it's Gronk for me. Just a bad season, and he's been good for so long, but I think it's done. Pretty sure it's over for him.
Yeah,
at this point.
Yeah, I agree. And it's hard not to pick Gronk because of the injury thing, because a lot of other people you can make that excuse for, because even like I'm not going to put Le'Veon Bell up there because he didn't play. It is what it is. I mean, that's pretty much what it came down to. Otherwise, it would be him. I agree. It would be Gronk. And once again, you can name a bunch of different running backs, but all of them got hurt. I can't say Fournette because he was hurt most of the season. I can't say Dalvin Cook.
I say both of those guys come to mind, but you really can't. The injuries kind of, you can't pick them. I mean, other than that, you could say Jordan Howard, but how high was he really drafted? Kind of a thing, I
even wanted to say like Doug Baldwin, but he was hurt so much of the year.
Yeah. And so just a guy who played pretty much the whole year and just was not good. It's Gronk. And for somebody who should be really, really good, just extremely disappointing. Yeah. I don't see it coming back for him because everyone else, like wide receiver wise, if you look at the wide receivers, I'm looking at like our preseason ranks. Those guys showed up to play this year. Pretty much everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like our ranks, like we both had Brown number 1, or what? He finished number 2. So we had DeAndre Hopkins as our number 2, and he was 4, I believe. So they're all up there. Odell, he got hurt too. Julio, we both had up there. Michael Thomas, AJ Green, he got hurt, but Devontae Adams, Keenan Allen, T.Y. Hilton, Tyreek Hill, we had all these guys up in the top.
Yeah, I mean,
everyone showed up to play.
Just to show too, I mean, Gronk, this is how much Gronk fell off too. Gronk finished number 11, so he was outside the top 10 in a year where tight end felt like he was down. O.J. Howard, the guy that I hyped up, I was kind of like, get him late. He missed the last 6 games and one in the middle of the season, whenever that is. He still finished above Gronk.
Okay, so Gronk missed like maybe 2 or 3 games, but still, I mean,
still
he should be. There's no way he should have been this bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to. I mean, really, like if you look at this week 1, he went 16.3. You're like, oh, okay, he's gonna be him. 1.5, 5.1, 4.4, 7.5, 9.7. You're like, great, and then all of a sudden he falls off because he's hurt a little bit. 4.3, and he really only had 3 good games all year. And for a guy that you had to draft as hopefully the number 2 tight end and maybe the number 1. I mean, that's a killer. It really is.
Yeah, it really he killed teams this year. So, I mean, I guess I was looking at tight end wise. Travis Kelce could have been actually a candidate for an MVP type. How much better he was than the rest of the guys, but not quite. But he a lot of teams won championships with Travis Kelce too. Say that. But how about let's move on. Okay, this is an easy one for me. It might be for you too. Breakout player of the year. So my breakout player of the year was Patrick Mahomes, who was your MVP. So
yeah. Okay. I do have another candidate that I have to bring up because Mahomes is kind of on a different tier.
Yeah.
I would have to say the breakout player that I absolutely did not see coming that we have to bring up is Phillip Lindsay. He finished number 12 as a running back, finished on the IR, so he missed the last game. But he legitimately was in the mix for a top 10 running back when you hardly knew who he was. So that has to be the biggest out of nowhere breakout.
Yeah, completely. I mean, because I wouldn't even consider like James Conner finished ahead of him as much of that because we kind of knew before the year Bell's not there, James Conner's there. Phillip Lindsay was just not expected.
No, he outplayed a running back that a lot of people told you to draft, including, I mean, I know we mentioned him a ton, Royce Freeman, because we're like, no one else is there. He just straight up outplayed him, and he worked his way as a very high-end RB2, which is wonderful.
Yeah, he was terrific for the year and ended up way up there. He would have been probably ahead of, if he had not gotten hurt, he probably finishes the year ahead of David Johnson, which is crazy.
Right? It's insane. He would have been it's crazy. He would have probably ended number 10 instead of number 12.
Yeah, and that was pretty impressive for a guy that we basically had never heard of. And maybe we might have mentioned him once in the preseason. I don't know if you did or not. I can't remember if we actually said it on the podcast or not. You had picked him up, I think, in a league or talked, in the Scott Fish Bowl, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I don't even know if we mentioned it actually on the show though, but you made that pickup.
It happened so quickly.
He really did. All of a sudden, boom, he's there. Guy's good. So yeah, that's a good one for breakout. I mean, I guess another breakout, if we would have picked one, would have been like, I think George Kittle would have been a good player for that. He ended up being, end up number 2 tight end for the year. So in standard, yeah.
Yeah, there's quite a few guys we could really go through, but And it's hard to say. Like, does breakout mean that you think they're going to stay up there?
I think so. I kind of in a way. I think it should. Sort of.
Yeah. So two guys that I'm not sold on staying there, but I do have to say they had a much better season than I thought they would. Robert Woods and Tyler Lockett. Both of them, they finished 10 and 11 as a wide receiver. Robert Woods had never done that before. I think 30th was the best he ever finished. He's been in the league for 6 years or so. That was a huge, that was an impressive jump by him.
Well, I'll say, yes, this is actually, this wasn't an official category, but it was going to be performance you don't believe in for 2019. So that's one you don't believe in. So yeah, that's a good, I was looking at that and saw Tyler Lockett finished 11th in standard. Yeah, that's, I don't know if I quite believe that 100%.
No, I don't, but I mean, it was good to see he finally stayed healthy.
For me, the player I don't believe in for next year is James White. Based on where he finished.
Oh yeah, I believe. Yeah, I'm with you on that one too.
He finished 11th on the year. Yeah, I don't believe in that for next year whatsoever.
No, and he down the stretch he struggled as soon as Sony Michel came back. So,
yeah. What about a guy that? Do you believe in his end of year performance, Derrick Henry? What do you do with Derrick Henry next year?
I mean, the guy, because of the end of his year, which is completely misleading, he finished as the 13th best running back.
Yeah, because he just was insane.
He was
weeks.
almost useless. Until week 13. And
I've never seen this before. I've never seen this happen like this.
No, but this is exactly why I was higher on him than Deion Lewis, because he showed this at the end of last year. And then you got rid of DeMarco Murray. So I have a very hard time coming around to saying, I guarantee this guy will be good, because he
burned us before.
Yeah, he had the same exact, situation that he's going to have next year. I mean, I don't know what to do with him. I think that obviously I lean on the yes, but I think he's going to go too highly drafted.
Yes,
and
he will.
He comes with too much baggage. So
that's the problem. The hype is going to be too much. He's going to go way too high, and I can't do it. Maybe I miss out on him, but oh man, we've seen 4 good weeks in a career right now.
Exactly. It really is that crazy.
All right, how about this? Who would be your bounce back player there? So my bounce back player there, guy who I guess hadn't been good the year before. We kind of didn't even see it coming. I picked Adrian Peterson actually.
That's a really good one.
Kind of came out of nowhere. Didn't expect anything from him. Obviously, didn't even know he was going to be on a team until a couple weeks before the season, and definitely didn't. I mean, he didn't end the year maybe way up there, but he gave you a lot of good weeks during the season, and he got 1,000 yards on the year. I didn't think there was another 1,000-yard Adrian Peterson season coming.
No,
and he had a couple down weeks. He wasn't always great, but for the most part, based on where you drafted him and what you got to get him, most likely a free agent actually. A lot of times after drafts, it was good. It was good value, and he had a pretty good season.
Yeah, that's a very good one. You don't necessarily, for mine, the bounce back. It's not that you got a whole lot of. A whole lot of value out of him because he still went relatively high. But I have to give it to Andrew Luck. The fact that his arm was in so much question. He ended as the 4th best quarterback. He played wonderfully. And it was after a kind of a rough, start. He the first 3 weeks, you weren't really sure what he was going to do. And then he really came out throwing, where after that, he had 2 weeks that you could throw away. But other than that, I mean, this guy was mid to high 20s every single game. He was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, that's a good one. Because he was down there, I think, in preseason ranks. He wasn't necessarily up. I don't even know where we.
He was probably he was the bottom of the top 10 because you knew his.
We actually ranked him. We ranked him slightly higher, I think, than the majority.
Yeah, and people, I mean, rightfully so. They were worried about his arm. I mean, and at what point do you kind of hedge your bet? We were correct, but at the same time, if it went the other way.
Yep. Yeah. It could have, but at quarterback, I didn't really worry. There's not too much. There was no risk with him.
Right.
So didn't feel too bad. All right. So how about we'll get into some of our predictions. What do you think was your best prediction of the year? What would you say is your best call of the year?
Ooh, my best call. I'm trying to think of the guy that came out of nowhere. I have to think about this one for a moment. I was gonna say I know my worst one right away, but that, how like poker players remember their worst beats. That's what it is. Juju is definitely up there. I mean, I ranked him as a borderline wide receiver 1. He ended that way. That was a solid one. I know there's definitely a different one. Someone that killed it for me, and I'm trying to figure out who it is. Do you have one that you know off the top of your head?
My best prediction of the year isn't somebody who killed it. Somebody who sucked.
You went Alex Collins, didn't you?
It's Alex Collins. That's my best prediction of the year. I felt really good about that one going into the season. And you know what? It worked out. It did. He was what I thought he was.
Yeah, that is
pretty much.
It did. It worked out. That worked out really well for you.
Yes, it did. I feel pretty good about that one. You know, I'll say that. You know, let's see. I'm trying to think what I think some of your best calls would be. You know, actually in the preseason, you did have preseason awards of T.Y. Hilton was your bounce back player of the year.
Yeah,
that was a very solid one.
Yeah,
that was another good one.
There.
But yeah, that was a good one. You were higher than him than I was.
Yeah, I was
so
trying to dig I was trying to dig a little deeper. I mean, even sadder. I mean, once again, it's kind of hard because like Mike Williams, we ranked higher, but I feel like the 20th rank that he finished at wasn't actually what he played up to all season.
Yeah, so exactly.
That's why I'm kind of trying to like whittle through these.
Then I mean, Joe Mixon was one we were really high on compared to. I mean, some people were given. I don't know. A lot of people were on him, but people, I don't know, second guessed it. But I think we stuck with him. How about Nick Chubb? Nick Chubb was a good one. We stayed on the Nick Chubb bandwagon, the Aaron Jones bandwagon.
Yeah, that worked out for us. I mean, Aaron Jones worked out for the most part. There's so many injuries that kind of knocked people off that really killed a lot of my picks. But
I think a lot of those just maybe the running backs like the Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon. We didn't waver on those guys. I remember like our waiver wire episodes early on, they weren't playing at all, but yet they showed up on our waiver wire every week. We kept bringing them up, telling people to pick these guys up, They finally did it.
It was more besides for one player that I know we'll bring up in a moment. I think really this year, what really did it for me was I didn't miss. And it sounds really dumb, and I get that. But at the same time, like anyone that you ranked up there, like we talked about, hey, like feel free to take Gurley number 1. He performed. McCaffrey, Alvin Kamara, Saquon hit. You know, it was kind of one of those where you just didn't elevate anyone that didn't deserve to be up there. I know I'm going to find one, but we can blow by that. I have to figure out which one I'm most proud of.
Well, what was your worst prediction of the year?
It was by far it was so bad.
Chris Hogan?
Yeah, Chris Hogan. So he finished 50th, I think, as a wide or hold it, was it 50th or no, worse, 72nd. Oh my God.
He was just bad.
So bad. And even he had all the situation was perfect. And I talked about this before, perhaps on another podcast, but everything I thought was going to lead to him being a wide receiver 2, say you will, it all worked out for him. He just couldn't perform. He just wasn't the player I thought he was. I didn't think he was anything special. I just thought on the Patriots as a wide receiver 1 for the first half of this season with Tom Brady, who also, you know, really failed us this year. It all went to crap real quick. And he was by far my worst pick in probably the last couple of years.
He finished behind Robert Foster, Willie Snead, Traquan Smith, Kendrick Bourne, Albert Wilson, who I think hasn't played since like week 7. He's been hurt.
It was so bad.
It was not the greatest pick, but hey, we have them. I can't find any. I didn't have any bad ones. I don't know. Maybe I did pick, even though this one wasn't going to turn out anyway. My preseason award for MVP was Leonard Fournette.
I mean,
even with injury, it still wasn't a good call. I feel like.
I mean, whatever. If he stayed healthy, he's probably in the mix in the top 10. It probably wouldn't have been a terrible pick. I mean, the same thing with mine. Injuries really did wipe out a ton of players. Like McKinnon was my, and he got hurt right away. We'll never find out. A ton of wide receivers went down for me. Even O.J. Howard, who I thought was going to be a huge value pick, was until he got hurt halfway through the season. So it was an interesting year. It was all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, I guess one of my, oh, geez. Yeah, I'm looking at, okay, that was a bad call on my part. My preseason running back ranks, I put Christian McCaffrey 16th. Behind Jerick McKinnon, Jay Ajayi, LaShawn McCoy, Devontae Freeman, Jordan Howard.
Yeah, well, okay. Jordan Howard was another one. I mean, he finished 20th, which doesn't sound that bad, but yeah, I think we probably had him ranked too high. I know I definitely did.
Yeah, I just thought the volume would be there, and in turn he would be good because of that. But or maybe not even good, but just have the volume and be solid. But he just wasn't very good, which is in a way strange because all of a sudden he is on a good team finally, a good team that plays defense and keeps scores low. You'd almost think, okay, that kind of running back would succeed there, and it just didn't happen. It's kind of strange how that worked out for him. But yeah, that's about all I have for awards. I don't know if I have any more. Looks like.
I'm trying to think if there's a million different ways you could go with it. But yeah, I think those are the majority of, the awards that you'd be really looking for. Was there anyone that was just and we kind of talked about it with MVP, but just as far as value pick went, even if he only played well for this last half of who was your best waiver pickup? That's a good one.
My best waiver pickup. Let's see who that.
There was a ton at the end, which once again
early on, I would have said at one point it would have been probably Tyler Boyd for a bit. Tyler Boyd was one of those guys who did really well. It kind of tailed off.
Well, he did. He finished 17th though.
For me personally, that was there's better ones out there that other people would have had. James Conner would have been a waiver wire in some. Yeah. Philip Lindsay, obviously, those kind of guys. Yeah. Nick Chubb, but a lot of good players like Marlon Mack picked it up towards the end of the year. That would have been one of those guys that was pretty solid to get. I didn't happen to get any of those guys, so didn't work out for me there.
Right. There is, and notice the funniest part about that is the biggest waiver pickups, which honestly. Even though he only played a couple of weeks, Damian Williams probably won a lot of people's leagues.
That's true.
He'd be in the running. And there was a lot of guys right there in the last 4 or 5 weeks that really helped people win.
That's it. He helped James win the title in our league. Yeah. Damian Williams plus Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, really that's what beat me. So freaking A. Right?
It's been a while, but it still hurts, huh?
Yeah, it will always hurt. You never forget.
Yeah, it's I don't even know if we've hadn't even had a show since I lost in our other league. I didn't get to tell the people that. It was very disappointing. Lost to our buddy Joe.
Oh my gosh! I actually noticed the saddest part. I totally disconnected after I lost to James. Hold it, you actually lost the finals?
Yeah.
To Joey?
Yeah.
Oh, that's embarrassing. Hogan, how in the world did you do that?
He's a 3-time champ. Ow, right?
It hurts my pride so much. That league is the Wild West of fantasy
he beat me
football.
by 25.
Dude,
Deshaun Watson put up 40.
That is hilarious, man. And actually, notice that Deshaun Watson, I do have to say this. He didn't live up to the hype a lot of people gave him, but he did finish the 5th best quarterback. He kind of was all right. He was actually more of a consistent player than a boom or bust.
Just look at these rosters. Tell me who should have won this game. So he has Deshaun Watson versus my Drew Brees. Okay, you can go either way, right?
Yeah, sure.
Running back wise, so you had the 2 running back spots. It would have been, let's go with, he had Alvin Kamara.
All right, stud.
And John Kelly, who was the backup to the backup.
Gotta love that.
My running backs would have been, my official running back spots, Melvin Gordon and Joe Mixon. I should have beat him there. In our flex, he had Josh Reynolds. I had Zeke. Wide receiver wise, he had Mike Evans, Tyler Lockett, Amari Cooper. I had Brandon Cooks, Stephon Diggs, T.Y. Hilton. Tight end, he had Jared Cook. I had George Kittle. Defense, he had Tennessee Titans. I had Chicago Bears. And at kicker, he had Greg Zuerlein. I had Adam Vinatieri. How do I lose?
Oh man, that is the playoffs in fantasy football. It is brutal.
Right? Look at that.
Brutal.
What was the better team?
Yours by far. But and that's the crazy part when you come to 1 week. I think this is how NFL teams probably feel. But it comes to 1 week, it's anyone's game.
Yeah, it just rough, man.
I feel your pain.
I'll win that some year. But all right, I think that'll do it for our return episode after a couple week break. We'll be back next week. What we'll talk about, I'm not actually sure. We'll start getting it out, but we'll start getting into some 2019 stuff already. 2018's done. We don't need to talk about it anymore. It wasn't we didn't finish well.
No.
You did win a championship, didn't you?
One title. I'll take the 1 out of the 3. And let's be honest, you did a fabulous job, and you won a title on the Instagram slash.
Yeah, the Instagram Twitter league. Thanks to CJ Anderson, actually. My
Really?
CJ, I picked up CJ Anderson and played him, and that won the whole thing for me.
That a boy, look at that, and
so
I like it.
That's why you stay on the waiver wire all year, right till the end.
And let's give our champion one more shout out, by the way, because that is a very difficult thing to do. Not only did he win his,
Owen,
yeah.
So I mean, shoot, that's a tough thing to do. First you have to win your league, which 12-team league, and then you got to. So basically, we had 4 leagues of 12 teams apiece. So you have to be the best out of 48 different teams. That's a pretty impressive feat. Beat 47 other teams to win that thing. So I'm actually staring at the belt right now, and kind of sad I have to go send that away.
Yeah, I'm excited to actually have someone earn the belt. He is actually the first ever person outside of us to win the Fantasy Football Prophet belt.
Did win it. We won the title last year, so they took it from us this year. I don't know what next year. We'll figure something out. I don't know. So hopefully, maybe it'll be a championship ring. Maybe it'll be something. Yeah. Probably not a belt.
Hopefully, send us a picture. I don't know what you're gonna do with the belt. For all I know, you're gonna burn it in spite of us. But
yeah, good.
Yeah, I mean, congratulations, man. That was a real deal, because that's a rough thing to get through all year.
Yeah, we'll be gunning back to try to win that. Whatever the award is next year, we'll try to win that thing back. And had a shot. I got into 1 title game out of 4. We should win. We have 4 chances. We're in every league.
We have the best chance, and we did not do it.
Next year. All right. That'll do it for this week. We'll talk to you guys next week.